Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show
on 5 Live.
And welcome to the Tuffers and Vaughan podcast. I'm Eleanor Oldroyd. Michael and Philip are with me. It is one test down, one victory to the West Indies. They won by 4 wickets yesterday. I think in lots of people's minds, very much a deserved victory. We'll go into where the match was won and lost from an England point of view. But first of all, guys, how brilliant was it to have Test cricket back? We thought it might not happen, Michael, didn't we? But there we were, watching Test match cricket in the sunshine yesterday. Thrilling finish, 5 really absorbing days.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like we've been on a little Test cricket holiday altogether without any fans there, no noise other than ourselves. Full credit to the ECB and the West Indies board for getting the game on. I thought the players were magnificent. When you think they haven't had a great deal of practice, not a huge amount of preparation, the Test match that we saw, to take it into the last session of the 5th day, I don't think we could have asked for any more.
And we were in a bubble, Phil. How was the bubble for you?
Well, it was all right. We were very well looked after down there at the Ageas Bowl, weren't we? We had a curry club night and what have you. My balcony was facing right over the ground. And, you could literally... I did like it, actually, because you could literally fall out of bed and within 10 paces you were in the radio studio. So it kind of flashed past. And as you say, it was just great to be watching some cricket.
Phil, the girls were a bit noisy one night, weren't they? The Ellies and the Ishas and the Ebonies and the Allisons kept us up one night. Ellie, if you can keep your noise down at Old Trafford, please.
Look, we had one night, we had one bonding night where we all sat round together and had a couple of glasses of fizz on Ebbs's balcony, and it's because it's nice to see your friends, and I'm guessing the players feel like that as well. Actually, you know, when you've been on your own or with your family. You know, we all get on pretty well, actually, don't we?
But myself and Phil, Ellie, we were reading our wisdoms on our balcony, studying the next day's play and just studying the history of cricket, and all we could hear were these giggles down the balconies, couldn't we, Phil? And the ukulele's being playing down the other end. Jonathan Agnew playing some stupid machine.
Yes, I was preparing. Yes, Agger's got his ukulele out.
Yeah,
which was something, wasn't it? Which
was a challenge for all of us.
And we found out, by the way, who kept on going, shh. Who was that from above us?
I don't know. I think it might have been the players.
Yes, I know. We were a very, very bad influence. Got to say, though, Alistair Cook, the chef, stepped up when it came to Curry Club.
Remarkable. It was doubted, wasn't it? I didn't doubt it. I thought it might be a bit late because it was such a big order. He likes to take his time, Cookie, doesn't he? He gets himself in. It's similar to his batting. It was never going to come quickly. And it arrived a bit late, but it was marvellous. Lots of it. It's what you want.
I think he got the tip from James Vince, so we had a bit of local knowledge.
Ah, that's where the tip came from. Yeah, curry for 25. Yeah, it was great. I think we all really enjoyed ourselves. We enjoyed being together. We enjoyed watching cricket. It was a point where I was watching just yesterday evening the final session with beautiful sunshine. All it was missing was the crowd, and we'll talk about the influence that the crowd might have had on England as they were pushing for those final wickets yesterday. But lots to talk about. We will talk to Carlos Brathwaite, who is going to give us the West Indies perspective. But first of all, let's focus on England and where they came up short, because they are a match down in this 3-match series. What was the most costly thing, do you think, Michael? The fact they didn't score enough runs in the first innings, or the fact that they collapsed 5 for 30 on day 4?
Well, I really think it was because the West Indies were so good. You know, the West Indies, we kind of put to a side the opposing team as if the England side should just beat them comfortably. We're in our own backyard. We're playing with the Duke ball. Well, the West Indies were more disciplined. They showed more maturity. The chase yesterday, generally any team that I've ever seen chasing 200, you have a bit of a panic on. You know, the last day chase is never easy, and they play 27 for 3, play with control. Blackwood, we expected to come out and try and launch the ball into the stands. It was like a double bluff. He didn't. The field was spread. He went, thank you very much. I'll take the singles. It was a wonderful performance by the West Indies, but we shouldn't really be surprised with England's Test match team. We shouldn't be surprised that the batting collapses. You know, in the first innings, 204. Was it easy? No. Should they have got 270? Absolutely. If they'd have got around 270, it would have put the West Indies under a lot more pressure in their first innings. The second innings, 240 odd for 3, controlling the game, a 98-run partnership between Zach Crawley and Ben Stokes. The second new ball had been taken. They'd hit it to all parts. And all of a sudden, like we've seen in the England Test match team for 3 or 4 years now, they lose 5 for 30 by some very good bowling, but some indifferent batting. If you analyse the dismissals in the second innings, there was some poor strokes. Rory Burns caught at point, Sibley down the leg side. Joe Denley flicks one to mid-wicket, having got in once again. Some really poor cricket strokes. Zach Crawley playing across the line, leaning edge, in on 76. Ben Stokes trying to work one to the onside, walking at Jason Holder. And then Shannon Gabriel produces a couple of magic deliveries. And that's where the pressure couldn't stand for the England team. So full credit to the West Indies, but it's the batting. You know, I'm sure we're going to focus in a while about the non-selections, but it really is England's Test match batting that gets them into trouble.
Yeah, 249 for 3, Phil. You know, they should have gone on and made 400, shouldn't they, easily? 313 all out. And Ben Stokes said it in his interviews at the end of the game, that it was that, you know, and another 60, 70 runs, they'd have won it probably.
Well, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Even another 30 or 40, and they could have been in business. For me, though, I think, Mike, they were playing catch-up from the toss. I mean, those first 2 days, you will never get a more grey and leaden sky, humid, bowler-friendly conditions in Test match cricket, and especially in England. And the West Indies are over there. You know, all they've been doing is having nets. You've got Jimmy Anderson, Jofra Archer, these guys with a new ball in their hand. I still, for the life of me, cannot understand why we batted first. I mean, you always look up at Test grounds and you always look to see what the overhead conditions are going to do. I think with that frail, well, supposedly frail West Indian batting lineup, it would have just been perfect to go out there and have a bowl. So I think they were just playing catch up. And as you said, Eddie, they just didn't quite get enough runs to then catch up on that last innings. I could see the thought process of it. They thought that the wicket was going to go up and down and a bit of invariable bounce because it was very, very dry. But it just never came to fruition. And and I agree with Mike as well. The West Indies just outplayed us.
Phil, I think if you actually... So England made the decision on 2 counts. For one, they're a better team when they bat first. You only have to look at the last few years. When they had to bat second, the opposing team get over 250, England lose. So batting first is their kind of main card of winning. The other aspect was the ground. They played India there a couple of years ago and it just got drier and drier. Yeah. And the warm-up game that they played, the 3-day game, they felt got drier and drier. So I could understand what Ben Stokes was doing. But if you look back to that Indian game 2 years ago, Moeen Ali bowled them out on the last day and he had a huge amount of footholds to bowl into because who was playing? Sam Curran. The left armour, and you know, Phil, as a spinner, you know, particularly an off spinner like Dom Bess, he needs Sam Curran in that side to create some footholds for him because, you know, the right arm over balls which England have, they come around the wicket now and again, but I don't think there's many that create the bunker that I call it for outside the off stump for the off spinner. So England went on the history of the ground, they went on the history of the way that they play. I do think, looking back in hindsight, you know, I said at the time I'd have batted. You know, I think many of the ex-captains around the ground were saying, yeah, we'd batted, you'd have to bat well. But looking back at the way that the game panned out, having seen it now, I think bowling possibly would have been the right way to go. You call it the bunker, Mike. I call it the omelette. The omelette, yes. Oh, didn't you call it the fruit bowl once in the UAE? And we did a bit of a demo with a fruit bowl down there. And you got to put your banana in there, your orange in there, your pear in there. But then you're saying about Dom Bess as well. He didn't then come into the game because you only got 200 to defend. Really, if you're not getting early wickets when you come on in your spell, you know, a couple of sort of risky shots, you get away with it. You've got to take the spinner off. So I agree with Mike. I like the look batting. Of him, Phil. Yeah, I thought he bowled nicely. I thought he bowled nicely in the first innings. Yeah, nice drift. He's improved for me. He bowls a better line, a more attacking line. He mixes up his seams, bowls from mixes up his release points and uses the crease. So I think he's come on. He's one for the future for me. Do you like his attitude as well, Michael? Oh yes, yeah. I like anyone. I always think, and Phil won't admit to, but he had it as well. The same as Graham Swan. When you're bowling finger spin without mystery. You know, these bowlers don't have the doosters. You know, you can't bamboozle a batsman. But what you have to do, you have to create theatre by your body language and your attitude. Tuffers had it, Graham Swan had it, and it looks to me like Dom Bess has got it. He's in the game. You know, he's got bubble, he's got energy, he's got, you know, that follow through where he just gives the batsman a little stay. You can't hurt a batsman as a spinner, but you can let them know that they're in a contest. And I think Dom Bess has got that right attitude for bowling spin. Let's talk about some positives from an England batting point of view.
quite good to have an opening partnership. I mean, Dom Sibley was out for a duck in the first innings, but Rory Burns got a few runs. They probably didn't get enough runs, but they look, relatively speaking, like a decent opening partnership going forward. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, Rory Burns will be kicking himself because as an opening batsman, when you've got him twice in Test match cricket, he'll know. Particularly in that second innings when he'd done the hard work, the pitch was playing flat. And he made a big mistake to Roston Chase, trying to cut it, got caught at points. Dom Sibley got a good ball in the first innings. He left it, it nipped back a long way. Dom Sibley looks to me like a player that he just needs to find. I mean, he's a young player finding his way. And at Test level, for you to stay there for 5 to 10 years, you've always got to keep improving. Because the opposition now have seen that he likes the leg side. He gets over to that off stump and just works it on the onside. Particularly against spin fill, he gets blocked up a bit and he chews up a lot of balls for not a great deal of reward to him. And I just wonder if he needs to kind of work on a sweep shot or something different to offer the spinner a little bit of a question or two. Down the leg side, he's been caught down the leg side. If you do it once, you're unfortunate. If you do it twice, you kind of go, yeah, unfortunate. But when it keeps happening, again, we seem to always talk about Australia, the bouncier wickets. The Aussies will target that hip, and really go at him. So just a couple of areas. I like his attitude. I like any young player that gets, I don't like them getting naught, but I like the player that can come in the second innings and put it to one side because that's mental toughness, putting that failure of the first innings to one side. He's certainly one England have to stick with. He's just got to work with the likes of Graham Thorpe, Paul Collingwood on just one or two more areas of the game that he can just improve upon because you have to keep improving at Test level.
Yeah, Rory Burns was very impressive. Seems to have slotted straight back in after his ankle injury playing football. Very impressed with him. As Mike said, he'll be kicking himself. And you're right, he's just got to find a way of ticking over strike, hasn't he? As you say, if you're a spin bowler, you just look to be bowling wide of off stump, mixing your flights and your paces out, and he wouldn't go anywhere. You could dot him up and bowl maidens at him, which then creates pressure on the other fella. So he's got to find a little release shot. But I do like the look of them. They look like they're forming a bit of a bond with each other. They go out there.
I've got a wild rabbit on my drive. Just looking at me through the window.
Is it?
He's coming here. Yeah, he's coming towards me now.
Oh, that's nice. What was I saying?
We're talking about the top order, not the lower order. We're talking about
we're not
rabbits.
talking about the rabbits. Yes, they look like
Dom Sibley. I tell you the thing that strikes me as well about this England team potentially is that how many of them are so young. So Sibley's 24. You've got Zach Crawley. He's 20, just turned 23. I think you've got Dom Bess, who's just 22. They are a young team, aren't they? They've got Ollie Pope is 22. Jofra Archer's only 25 now.
Yeah, so, England are in that building stage, aren't they? They've blooded a few young players. They're talented. They've got what I can see is good attitudes. That Crawley impressed me immensely. I saw him in the first innings and thought, oh, wait a minute, there might be a problem on that front foot against the seamers. In the second innings, he was absolutely magnificent, particularly against the spin fill. He dominated Roston Chase with just control. He got back, punched him through the offside, danced down, flicked him over mid-on, played that reverse sweep to get his 50. He's, again, a young player, tall batsman, tall right-handers. He might just have to work a way of, particularly when the ball's moving around, of getting his transfer of weight back into the ball a little bit more to smother the movement if it does start to move around like it was doing in the first innings. He's quite upright, so that's something that he might have to improve upon. But again, he looks like he's made of the right stuff. I mean, he has to stay in the team. When you're 22 years of age and you out-bat a 34-year-old at number 3, and Joe Root's coming back for this week, Zach Crawley has to stay in the team.
Yeah, and it is turning into a bit of a battle of the captains, isn't it? Jason Holder and Ben Stokes with the ball and the bat. I mean, how quickly has that developed? Ben Stokes came in and looked $1 million with the bat. He really,
how wide's
did.
his bat?
Oh, he just hit some of the best shots I've seen. Gets right back and across, and then he was almost running down the pitch to the seam bowlers to try and nullify that seaman swing. So powerful. I mean, when he got out, I think that is going to be the crucial wicket for the West Indies all summer. They've got to target Ben Stokes. If they get him out, you always feel that there's a collapse waiting to happen, so to speak, and it proves so.
And it is, as you say, a great battle. The two number one and number two ranked all-rounders in the world. So Holder got Stokes' wicket twice, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then Stokes got Holder once. And Andy Zaltzman in the TMS box was getting unbelievably excited because it has never happened that the captains have taken each other's wickets in both innings in a Test match. And it didn't happen, but he was excited. It might still happen.
It was strange why he didn't bowl a lot in that second innings. He makes things happen for me, Ben Stokes. He bowled 4 overs, I think, in the first 2 sessions, and and looked the most likely to get a wicket. We was all sitting in the commentary box going, "Bring yourself on, Ben." I think he might have a toe injury, but I don't think that was going to stop him. That is the one drawback when a bowler becomes captain, is that sometimes they just don't quite know when to bowl themselves in a way. He came on and England came back into the game, didn't they?
Yeah, that's why it's so important that the senior players, the likes of Jimmy Anderson, just get into his ear and say, "You got to bowl."
Or Josh
Butler.
Got to
bowl better. I mean, Joe Root's back now, so he won't have that problem. But I think people and the team have to realise that he's just got magic. Yeah, Ben Stokes. He came in. What over was it towards the end yesterday? They needed about 34 to win. All of a sudden, he got Dowrich 2 in 2.
Yeah, I know.
First one with the no ball, and then the ball after him. I mean, he's a wonderful cricketer that just makes things happen. So England have got to realise that on days like yesterday, it's almost like he's the trump card. Archer bowled a magnificent spell. That was Archer back to what he bowled like at Lord's last summer against Steve Smith. And, I'm delighted that we saw that from Joffrey yesterday, because it just proved... I mean, he gets a lot of stick, Joffrey Archer. I know he had a bit of a spat with Tino Best, who was accusing him of not bowling the pace.
That was bizarre on Twitter, wasn't it? So what was Tino Best saying? That
I don't know what his words were.
He's got a bee in his bonnet about Joffrey Archer, hasn't he, for some reason?
Tino seems to have a bee in his bonnet about many. I don't know what it is with Joffrey Archer. Is a young fast bowler that clearly he's not going to click and bowl the Steve Smith spell all the time. It's impossible. But when he gets it right,
it's
very difficult to say. But you know what I mean. I'm not going to say it again.
But that was quite interesting, wasn't it? Because after the first innings, a lot of people were saying, "Hang on a second, he's supposed to be." I mean, I think Joffrey. I mean, it's upsetting, I think, to see the amount of criticism he gets so quickly from people, because he's not bowling 94, 95 miles an hour every ball. I mean,
I think it's out of order, Ellie. I think it's out of order for a young, quick bowler. I mean, just look what he's done already in his career. Yeah. He's only been in the England team, what is it, a year and a half? I mean, it's remarkable what he's achieving. I'd have him in my team all the time, because when I see spells like I saw yesterday, you just know he's different. He's just got that point of difference that... Going forward, he will have frustrating days. He's a young bowler. Will he become really consistent the older he gets? Maybe, but he's just that type of bowler that quick bowlers, look at Brett Lees and Shoaib Akhtar's, they have lots of spells where you go, oh, come on, you can crank it up a bit. So it's impossible. The body just doesn't allow you to do it every single over that you bowl. But you then get that click, and then you get those 6 or 7 overs where it is in the rhythm and everything's in sync, and all of a sudden you see the ball flying down there at 90-odd miles an hour and causing chaos, and that's why you put the likes of Joffrey Archer in your team.
To talk about the West Indies with Carlos Brathwaite in just a sec, but just a quick word about England's fielding on that final day. Because Phil, you said that there weren't many chances given, but Blackwood should have been caught by Jos Buttler down the leg side, shouldn't he? Missed a difficult catch by Ben Stokes at Gully. He should have been caught by Burns off what was then a no ball. So, and there was Zach Crawley's run out miss as well. So did it kind of just go a little bit wobbly in the field?
Well, I thought, Ellie, to be fair, they got a bit nervous. I think you can tell by the way they field, or a side fields in those crunch really crucial times, that you can feel that the game is going away from you. And I think they just got a little bit nervous and a little bit jittery.
The one positive I would say to England is you possibly got the toss decision wrong. You may have got, in many quarters, your team wrong. Yeah. And you didn't quite field as well as you could, and you nearly won the game. Yeah. So you're actually not that far off from winning the game. No. And you haven't played anywhere near the standard of what you should be playing. And a few little decisions, a few mistakes. I mean, the Jos Buttler catch down, he'll know this morning. He knows it's an awful feeling as a player, particularly as a wicket keeper. Those catches, it's 9.9 times out of 10 you're taking that catch down the leg side. I actually thought, Dowrich took a good catch in the finish to dismiss Jos Buttler, but I thought both keepers looked like they'd had a long layoff and not much cricket, which is obviously exactly what they've had. I mean, the keepers are the positions that I look when you've not played any cricket. And bowlers, you obviously can bowl lots of overs and your kind of body gets a bit tired. But keeping all day when you haven't done that for such a long period of time, that's the only excuse I can give them.
And very quickly, I think I know the answer to this from all of us. Joe Denley, Old Trafford.
No, he's gone. He's gone, Ellie. He's 34 years of age. He's played 15 Test matches. He's averaging 29.5. He's got between 10 and 39 18 times in his 15 Test matches. Yeah. There's many England players over the last 25 years that will be watching thinking, how have you got 15 Test matches when I only got 6 or 8 and I'd scored 100 in those 6 to 8 games? I'm not saying that's the reason, and it shouldn't ever be anyway a thought process for the selectors about what's happened in the past. But Joe Denley, he can't have any complaints. He's no complaints about the opportunities that he's had.
Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show
on 5 Live.
Let's bring in Carlos Brathwaite. Hello, Carlos.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey.
West
Carlos,
Indies
how was your gym
all-rounder.
session?
It was a little rough, to be honest.
Yeah.
Got there a couple of minutes late. Still with coal in my eye, still yawning.
Bit of weights or a bit of running. What were you doing?
Yeah, some running work to get the Z's out my head, and then finished off with some weights and some core. So a full body workout.
Like it.
How do you reflect on your Test match special debut, Carlos? Do you enjoy it?
It was enjoyable, but I'll be honest, it is a lot harder than I thought. When I was playing, I would always think, yeah, you guys just sit up there, do nothing all day, talk for half hour at a time, and it has been tough. It's been very tough. Just having to be mentally switched on, sometimes from 10 to 9 when you do the press position downstairs until sometimes 8 p.m. So you're almost working 12-hour days every day. You need to be switched on for all of it. So it's not physical fatigue, but yeah, mentally it was an eye-opener for sure.
Yeah. Did you go out with the boys yesterday, Carlos? Did you have a little chat with them? They must be delighted.
Yeah, I had a little chat with him. Every boy was happy. But the beauty about it was, even talking to Brooks, it was like, first thing, was like so happy. One of his best days in Test cricket for the team to get over the line. But then straight away we started talking about his dismissal, what it was like to face Jofra, what he felt about the conditions, asking me what the commentary box thought about, the run of play, his knock and that sort of thing. So, for me, that meant so much because he obviously at 31, and, we talk about Joe Denley and his age and his start at 31. He isn't resting on his laurels. He's happy for the team, but personally, he wants to know he can get better. So a lot of the boys would have been having a few beers last night, probably some rum, as Michael Vaughan alluded to. But they're all very keen to get better and to do it all over again in Manchester.
Yeah, Shamar Brooks, 39 in the first innings, and then absolutely plumb LBW to Jofra Archer in the second innings as well. Impossible to play that one. But look, do you think that we all underestimate? This is something that people do, is underestimate the West Indies. That and I include the Caribbean, people in the Caribbean, when I say that.
Yeah, because the narrative has been swirling around that West Indies don't have the best Test players available or the best players available, and people keep saying, Dwayne Bravo and Kyron Pollard and Darren Sammy, and with all due respect to what those guys have done over their careers, Pollard hasn't played Test, but in whatever format they would have played, these guys have been together for the last 3 years. You could probably count 8 of them that have been together throughout this journey from 2018. And it really started, for me, looking back, it really started with the twin home series with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. I think those 2 series proved to everybody in the West Indies and in that group that they're good enough as a team to compete at Test level. And between then and now, you would have had fast bowlers doing well and racking up the stats, the odd batting performance here and there. And I think the only thing, if I'm being brutally honest, the only thing that I can see stopping this team from going all the way to number 1 in the world is more consistent batsmanship. And as batters doing exactly what Jermaine Blackwood did, coming in, absorbing the momentum, transferring the pressure back onto the bowlers. And then the shift now for me is being selfish enough to not only score 60 or 70 or 80, but to go on and get 100, 150, a double 100. You can see what Steve Smith did in the Ashes, how he basically won that test with the double. Australia, from the position that they were in, we need some West Indies batters to put their hands up and not be content with the odd 60 or 70, but look at scoring hundreds, 150s, 200s, and then we could really challenge for number one, number two in the world and compete in all fronts.
Let me just say, I might be showing my age here, but I've never underestimated any West Indies side that I've come up against, I can assure you. You know what I mean? Well, some of the best in the world there. But it must be a nice place because that West Indies side, you do realise that you can take 20 wickets, which is handy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And if I look back at 2015 when I was a part of the test squad, a young Shannon Gabriel, very unfit, bowling the odd spell quickly but not quite a fast bowler. You know, you talk about fast bowlers and bowlers that bowl fast spells the odd time. He was more of that then. A Kemar Roach coming back from injury, a Jason Holder still unsure if he's accepted as his captain. Myself, I averaging 230 with the ball, so I couldn't help them get 20 wickets in a test match. So at that time, there was a bit of a roadmap needed. How do we go about playing test cricket? How do we win games? Where do we get these 20 wickets from? How do we get to 300 consistently? I think they've settled one of those arguments. They've found a way with the fast bowling attack to consistently get 20 wickets. I think Roston Chase, he's played a massive part as well. He's now allowed the bowling attack to have an Alzari Joseph and basically be carried. You don't always need him, but the fact that Roston Chase is there, it means you don't have to play a specialist spinner. You can now play the extra quick in Alzari and really have that four-prong fire in Babylon pace attack that the West Indies was well renowned for in the past. So I think they've found the blueprint, they've found the plan, a roadmap, how they can get 20 wickets. The next challenge is how they can score 300 and 350 on a more consistent basis.
Carlos, you just mentioned about Jason Holder, at the start of his captaincy reign, potentially not being accepted. Just tell us the story of Jason Holder from that position to where he finds himself now, because he's a remarkable fella, isn't he? He's an unbelievable person, but his performance levels and skill levels just keep improving.
I think a lot of it has to do to how stubborn he is, and normally we use stubborn negatively, but yeah, there were a few guys, even some senior guys, who weren't quite as accepting of him being in the role. One good thing about it was that he never shied away from it. He never apologized for being afforded the opportunity or the luxury as it was at that time. And he just knuckled down, and he had to be in control of a transition period. If I'm being honest, I think the fact that Test cricket became less attractive to majority of the senior players made his job a little easier, because it wasn't him now competing or controlling or managing someone who's averaging 50 or 40 with the bat and averaging 20 or 25 with the ball. Well, his stats weren't as good, but he was actually now in charge of a young group of men, all trying to chart the way in international cricket, all trying to learn together. And I think throughout the journey, they have learned together, they have grown together. The results are following now, the patience, the passion, and it's just something beautiful. For me, I've watched it evolve for the last 5 years, and it's really come to a head in the last 2 or 3 years. And just for them to now be gaining the respect to the world, is beautiful to see where the journey has come to.
I love the fact that you say you think they can be the number one test nation in the world.
Yeah, I do think it. The reason I say that as well is because they're young enough. I guess if you take Shannon out of that, you take Roach out of that, who's probably 30, 31, both of them. You're looking at Jason Holder, 27, Craig Brathwaite, 27, Dowrich, 27 or 26, Blackwood, 30, 29, something like that. They're all in that age as cricketers where you start to learn yourself a bit more, your body, your skill set. you're more mentally in tune, you start to mature. And in Caribbean, we mature a lot later. So whereas in England, you might find a guy maturing 24, 25. So it's a beautiful blend of youth and experience, and they're growing together. And the beauty of the older guys is that they're now putting pressure on the younger guys at the level below to perform and exceed what they are doing now to eventually be selected. And that could only bode well for the quality at first class level.
Look, Carlos, it's great to hear you talking with such passion, and we loved working with you down in Southampton. Can't wait to do it all again at Old Trafford.
On Thursday, I'll see you on Thursday, Ali.
You will.
Carlos, can I say tremendous debut on TMS and on the BBC, and also you were the best dressed, without any question.
Thank you. Pressure's on. Man.
Those maroon trousers on the last day, don't bring them to Old Trafford. They brought far too much luck.
They were special. Special trousers.
Take care, Carlos, and enjoy a bit of a break.
Thank you.
We'll see you later in the week.
Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show
on 5 Live.
Let's talk about Stuart Broad, shall we? Because this has been...
Ellie. He's not happy.
Oh, he is not happy. The number of shots that we saw during the game of him sitting on the boundary looking cheesed off was amazing. But he spoke with great passion, didn't he? The interview that he did with Sky on day 3, he said, "I'm not a particularly emotional person, but I found the non-selection really tough. I'm disappointed and I'm angry. It's a hard decision to understand. Don't think I've got to prove anything. When I get the opportunity again, you can bet I'll be on the money." And it was interesting, Michael, wasn't it, to see Ben Stokes saying he really liked that interview. Yeah. You know, the England team were happy for him to do it, and they welcomed what he said.
Yeah, great. I mean, I'd have had a problem if he'd have been interviewed and he'd kind of come out with the cliche answer, there's a big squad and there's plenty of games and I'll get my chance. That, for me, if he'd have given that kind of interview, would have told me that pretty much he's finished. Because he's angry and he's hurt and he's gutted, that tells me that he's got a bit of fire left in the belly. So that's good for English cricket. Well, let's get to the point of his non-selection. Would Stuart Broad have improved the England team this week? Absolutely. Is Stuart Broad in English conditions with the Duke ball in England's best 11? Yes. What are England trying to do going forward? They're trying to develop a team that can win in all conditions. They go to India in the winter, and then obviously a year later it's about the Ashes. The last 2 times in Australia we've been beat 4-0, 5-0. And we're the first and probably the most brutal media to get on the backs of the England team when they go to Australia and within 2 test matches they're 2-0 down, and all of us start, well, wait a minute, if you arrived in Australia and you've got no pace, you haven't prepared for it, you've got 80 odd miles an hour bowling, you've not learnt from the last time when you lost 5-0, they go on and lose 4-0 the last time. So we've got to be very careful that this England setup seems to be having an eye on now and also an eye on the future. So I admire them for that, and also I admire the captain, I admire coaches and Ed Smith, the chairman of selectors, and I admire anyone that makes a decision in leadership knowing full well they're going to get criticised. Because when you leave out Stuart Broad, whatever the result, you're going to get criticised because it's Stuart Broad, he's a legend of the game. Would I have done the same with England this week? Yes. I'd have gone in exactly the same pathway. I've been saying it for quite a while now that for England to win in Australia, they really do have to prepare earlier than they have done in the previous 2 tours. And I personally, this week at Old Trafford, I potentially wouldn't play Jimmy Anderson. Back-to-back games for a 30-odd-year-old bowler, just come back from an injury, 3 days in between the games. Is Jimmy going to be right for Thursday? And it may be that Jimmy Anderson misses out on Thursday and Stuart Broad comes in. And if England have got this process of what they're trying to deliver going forward, and they're going to be, sticking to it, it may be that Chris Wokes comes in for someone like Mark Wood this week, Stuart Broad comes in for Jimmy Anderson, Jofra plays 1 more test, and then Jofra doesn't play the week after because of the amount of games that they're being played. But yes, Stuart would have improved the team, but I can completely see what England are trying to do. And for me, yeah, it'd have improved it, but it wasn't the reason solely that England lost the game. It was the batting. And because Stuart Broad's such a high-profile name, a legend of English cricket, and that partnership of Stuart and Jimmy Anderson is probably up there with the greatest we've ever had, I can understand the press and the media around it, but it wasn't the issue. It's the batting that's the issue for me. And we kind of always go on the side of what's the biggest attention and what's the biggest headline. And it's not the batting at the minute, which is surprising because it's been the problem for English Test match cricket for 4 or 5 years. The batting is the reason why England lose Test matches in English conditions.
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot of wickets walking around that ground with a very strange headband, and I can imagine most of the England boys, and especially Ben Stokes, on some of on that passage of play when they couldn't make the breakthrough and couldn't make a wicket. And there's old Broady walking around with his fluorescent bib on and his white headband. And I think they was just thinking to themselves, well, we might have made another wrong decision. Might have made another little bit of a wrong decision. But I kind of agree with Mike. I think they got slightly carried away with that pace. We've got Wood and Archer going to be flying in. They're all flying in the nets. They're raring to go. They're up for it and everything. And I think they might have just got a little bit carried away with it. So you're saying, Mike, that Broad and Anderson don't really play as a two now, ever?
I think the decision, a few months ago when particularly Jimmy was injured, was that they were trying to build for the Ashes in Australia. Sure. Both their records in Australia, it isn't great. I mean, Stewart averages 37 with the ball in Australia. Jimmy Anderson, I think something similar. It's a combination that I can see them both going. Now they look to me like they're absolutely focused on playing for a little while longer, which means that they probably will get to Australia, with it only being a year and a bit's time. But you look at Brisbane. Can you see Jimmy Anderson playing in Brisbane?
No.
You can't. You could see Stuart Broad playing in Brisbane because he's tall, good record there. You go to Adelaide the week after with the pink ball, you could see Jimmy Anderson playing, but maybe not Stuart Broad. So I can completely understand where England are going. And as I said, I have a huge amount of respect for those in leadership that make tough calls, because they know they're going to get criticised. And they knew this week that, particularly if they lost, and they have done, the spotlight would have been on that decision. I personally look at the game and the 11 that were playing, and the 11 that were playing this week should have had enough and should have played better to beat this West Indies team without Stuart Broad. They had enough going for them and enough opportunities, enough chances, particularly with the bat. And I just look at that day 4, 204 in the first innings, not enough. Give them another 50, they should have got that. But when you're controlling the game late into day 4, and you're almost thinking, right, it almost got to the stage, Phil, that we were starting to discuss, will he declare?
Yeah, I know.
Will he declare? When will he declare on day 5?
It was the timing of the declaration, wasn't it?
And then all of a sudden, within half an hour, bang, 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 5 wickets. And that is the problem with the Test team, the batting. Because that happens too often. It happened against Australia. You don't have to look at that Test match against Ireland at Lords, Phil. The ball moving around. What happened? They got bowled out for nothing. Against the Irish team. So that, for me, is where the focus needs to be. Yes, you need to get 20 wickets, and England need to prepare this team to work out how they're going to get 20 wickets in all conditions. But they also need to work this batting lineup. How they're going to get... It's not going to be 300 that wins in India.
354.
Not going to be 350 that wins in Australia. How is this batting lineup going to train the brain within a year and a half to get 450, 500? How is that going to happen? And that's the key for me. If they can do that, I think England have got a chance of winning in all conditions. But you've got to be able to get first innings runs in particular. Yeah.
Mike, do you think Josh Butler's under a bit of pressure for a score at Old Trafford?
Yeah, I do. I think he needs 2 consistent games, Phil. I think, he's such a wonderful gift. Yeah. But there's a lot, from what I can see, there seems to be a lot going in that mind that's confusing the way that he needs to be playing Test match cricket. In the first innings when he batted, I watched and I thought, this is the best I've seen Josh Butler bat in Test cricket for a long period of time, because he could play a forward defensive. His balance was perfect for that. Good, full of length delivery, on off stump, bang, forward defensive, get past that. In the second innings, he came out on roller skates. He almost came out flying, and his balance went, he's falling over to the offside. He can't get towards that ball that nips back. He inside edge one onto his stumps. He'd missed one the previous over that they'd reviewed at LBW. Again, similar, losing his balance, the ball nipping back onto the stumps. He drops that catch on the last day. It has to be under pressure. I really do think he needs 2 very consistent performances in the last 2 Test matches, and he probably needs England to win a couple of games for him to be playing against Pakistan in August.
Just a very quick final point on this before we move on. Would you be happy, Phil, for England to lose this series, possibly the series against Pakistan, and win the Ashes? I mean, is it right that we are thinking now about a series 18 months ahead at this point?
I know what Mike's saying, but I do like to just concentrate on the game at hand as well. You know, I think that a lot of emphasis is put on the Ashes, and the Ashes is the pinnacle, as we all know. And, you know, going down under to win that it will be absolutely fantastic. But we mustn't forget, you know, we're playing a fantastic West Indies side here that look together, they look well prepared, they look well led, and they're here to prove a point as well. You know, so there's no point just thinking Australia. Pakistan could come up. They're going to have a few crackerjacks in their side as well. So, you know, for confidence and for moving forward, win every game that's put in front of you. Okay, have half a mind on Australia, but don't take West Indies and Pakistan lightly, because they'll run all over you.
Elliot, I'll be honest. If England can't beat, you know, the West Indies with whichever 11 they put out now,
we're not going to beat
Pakistan
Australia
in English conditions, they're going to get hammered in Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's it. Doesn't matter what the 11, and the 11 this week was good enough to beat the West Indies team. You know, they just didn't play well enough, and if they can't do that consistently over the course of the next 5 Test matches, there isn't that many games left. When you look at it, how much cricket will be played in the winter? I can't imagine that all the schedule will be played. India come here next summer, you know. So England have got probably the best preparation. You know, you look at Pakistan's attack, magnificent. Some of those young quicks, Shaheen Afridi, Naseem Shah, you know, high-class quick bowling. So the batting is going to get tested hugely. And then go to India in the winter. Their attack is probably pound for pound with Australia's the best, with the pace and the spin. You know what you're getting in terms of spin, but also pace now in India. And then India come here again next summer, and then obviously the Australian attack. So in the next 18 months, we'll find out a lot about the batting, because they are going to be tested. They're going to be tested in about 3 days' time at Old Trafford, because this West Indies attack is high class. So for the first time, for I think for the last few years actually, most teams around the world, they've got some good bowlers. Bowling is become trendy again. It's good to watch, not good to face, but it's good to watch.
Look, I tell you what, isn't it great to be talking about new cricket, about real issues, about stuff that's been happening this week? But of course, it's very different. This was a test match like no other down in Southampton, being played in the empty stadium. And we were in our commentary boxes, and we've been able to have a listen in on the stump mics. And we thought we'd share with you exactly what goes on out in the middle. So this is the morning of day 4. Rory Burns has just been dismissed. Joe Denley has strolled out to the middle to join Dom Sibley for a tricky period before lunch. As you'll hear, Alzari Joseph and Roston Chase are bowling.
Right on over, Joe. 5 to come.
Cheers, mate. That's the wicket
Middle.
we're looking for, boys. That's the wicket we're looking
Off
for,
stump.
boys.
Cheers, pal.
That's all we needed, boys. Bang, bang now, boys. Bang, bang now, boys. A bit of pressure, boys.
That's it, G.
That's
pressure here. Come on, Big G. Good, what's up? What's it there?
I love that.
Keep going, Bull. Keep going, Bull.
Nice, Ross. Nice, Ross.
Take a good one for you, Ross. Keep going, Bull. Oh, bowling, Bull. Bowling, Bull.
Well, Ross.
Remember the plan, man. Remember the plan, man. We're making it work. Keep going, Ross. Oh, bowling ball. Stay over. Get it on, man.
Let's go, Zari. Let's go, Zari.
Let's trot, man. Let's trot, man.
Look different already, Ross. Boy, look what a wicket can do, Ross.
Get it! Good man! Nice. Love your effort, Zari. Love your effort, boys. Come on, boy. That's good energy, boys. That's good energy, boys.
Running in, Zars.
Come on, man. This is yours here, Joseph.
Come on, Dave.
Go on with this one all the time, Zari.
Let's have lunch here, Joseph.
Yo!
Oh, Jesus Christ, Joseph.
The field, Zari.
Ouch.
One up, one down, Zari. One down, Zari.
Ouch.
You got opportunity to spot somebody lunch, Ross, there. Somebody can eat cement for lunch, Ross. Keep going, Bull. Keep going, Bull. Now, Greg.
Rocker, just tuck a little. That's all you want.
Discipline, man.
I tell you what, isn't that amazing? Because actually, you could hear a kind of a buzz in the background from where I was sitting. You could, hear it from where we were sitting. You could hear the chatter going on and the encouraging of the bowlers. When you've not got a crowd, it's intensified even more, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, I think they were very polite, actually. They were getting behind their man, weren't they? They were getting behind the bowlers. They were creating that energy out there, as you say, with the lack of crowd. But that would be exactly the same if the crowd was there, I can assure you. And that goes on all day. And that is a sign of a side that are together, a sign of a side that are backing up each other, wanting people to do well and enjoying their success. And that is part and parcel of Test match cricket. And if you are out of nick a little bit or feeling a little bit nervous about your place or the situation, that just then gets 10 times worse.
They were singing, weren't they, at one stage, Phil?
They were.
There was a couple in the slipcord and creating a bit of action with the bit of singing.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit of that's not sledging. That is just up for it's energy.
Yeah.
A lot of it starts with the keeper, doesn't it, Mike? The keeper's your kind of heartbeat. I could hear Jason Holder there as well, probably at second slip or something. Just come on, boys, come on, let's get another one. Good stuff for me.
Do you think that actually this may have been one of the things that affected England yesterday, that if there had been a big crowd, Sunday afternoon crowd, lovely sunshine, Barmy Army in full effect, getting England fired up, that could have made a difference? Yeah,
it could. But it could also have inspired the West Indies as well. I used to love playing overseas when, the home support was on you. It's... you have to raise your game. It's always nice to quiet them down. So it could have inspired the West Indies. We can make as many excuses up as we want for why England lost. The reason was that the West Indies were better.
Tuffers and Vaughan's Cricket Show on 5 Live.
We've all got a couple of days at home, heading up back into the bubble on Wednesday. I mean, we're kind of out of the bubble, but we're not really out of the bubble, are we? Because there's certain things we've been advised that we shouldn't do.
Am I allowed to stroke rabbits? Still there, the 2 rabbits now. Still on my drive. Yeah.
Mike, what's the pitch going to be like at Old Trafford?
Do you know what? And this is interesting because, not only the West Indies 1-0 up, this is the ground they've been practising at for the last 3 weeks. Yeah. So they've been out in the middle at Old Trafford playing on this surface. So, England are going to have to do the hard yards because, Old Trafford, it can sometimes be a very, very handy pitch to bat first on. If you get the chance to bat first and, if the West Indies do so and get anything like 300, it's going to be a tall order, particularly with this West Indies pace attack, to get back in the series. So all the pressure on England. I'm excited to see how they cope. Joe Root, I think it's more important Joe Root, the batsman, than the leader, actually. I think they missed Joe Root, the batsman, more than they did the leadership this week. I had no problem watching Ben Stokes as the leader this week. I thought he looked a natural captain, I have to say. I mean, I never looked out onto the field and thought, he's lost control, or he doesn't quite know what he's doing. I thought Ben Stokes looked a ready-made captain this week. I thought he looked very natural. Far too annoying, actually. It made it look too easy on his first attempt.
He was an attacking captain.
Took me about 30 tests to get to that kind of body language.
Well, do you know, apparently, that he is the first England captain to lose their first test as captain since...
WG Grace.
It'd be me, won't it?
It would be you.
Yeah, it'd be me. South Africa at Lords, we got
morning.
absolutely blown away.
Yeah. But then you didn't do too badly after that, Michael. So,
no, I managed to grab it back.
Yeah, you did. Quick insight, though, then into the domestic life of all of us for the next couple of days, because you're allowed home as long as you don't kind of do anything risky. So we're not allowed to go to pubs or anything like that, or mix with people who, because we've all been tested again. We've all going to be in a very biosecure environment again at Old Trafford. So my plan for the next couple of days is got a wash on already.
Yeah, good.
And the only time I'm going to allow myself to go out is to buy ingredients for another lemon drizzle cake, Mike.
Please, can you make a couple?
That was.
Do you think just lemon drizzle cake and more lemon drizzle cake?
Yeah,
I honestly think of all the cakes that's ever come into the TMS box,
up there. That's up there.
It's up there, but it lasted. What did it last? About 3 seconds.
Yeah, and I liked I liked your little banana and chocolate muffins as well.
Yes,
more of them would.
Can we have more of those, please?
Yeah. Right. Okay, that's what I'm doing then. You guys,
what are you doing?
I don't know. I'll probably go back to bed.
I've got the garden to mow. I'm going to mow the lawn. That's it. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Walk the dogs. Yeah, there's a couple of dogs here looking at me, wanting to go out for a little stroll. I think they want. Actually, I think they want to chase the rabbits down the field.
Yeah, I'm worried about your rabbits, Michael. But look, really looking forward to seeing you all again in a couple of days' time.
See you on Thursday
in Manchester. Take care, everybody. That is it for this week's Tuffers and Vaughan.